Very happy to be joined now by the Superintendent of Schools in Gloucester, Ben Lummis. And Ben, I know you've been told this before, but welcome to Gloucester and to Cape Ann.
Thank you very much, Rick. It's great to be in Gloucester, great to be working in the city here. As I've said, and folks, of course, know, it's a great city with just a tremendous group of families, professionals, leaders that are just working so hard for the folks in the city. So it's great to be part of the team.
Well, I know when you got hired, you look forward to coming here in the summertime for a nice, sleepy vacation type summer. Just relax, sit back, get to know the staff and some of the parents. And of course, it's that's not exactly what's happened.
No, not at all. It's been a really busy summer. It's a challenging time for all of us, for families, for kids, for our teachers, obviously for me and my staff. It's funny, just yesterday, Jonathan Pope, the chairman of the school committee, and I had a meeting with the mayor, which is pretty common for a chair and a superintendent. But that was the second time since I started in early July that Jonathan and I have been in person together. We've been working endlessly, hours on end together, and I feel like he and I know each other quite well now because we work so well together, but literally only the second time in person we actually had seen each other. It just gives you a sense of the way things have changed, for all of us. But
so who was taller in person?
I think we're about the same. I think we're
okay.
About the same height.
Yeah, it's funny. I talk with the mayors a lot, and I see the mayor of Salem once a month, and Jennifer Wessel, her executive secretary, just texted me now that I can go there on Monday and see her in person, and I haven't done that in 6 or 7 months. So I guess a general statement before we get into details, things seem to be improving. I mean, there's a couple of quick anecdotes.
Well, I mean, what Gloucester has done so well is keep COVID low in the city. I mean, they've really done an amazing job. As Karen Carroll, the Department of Health director, said last night at the school committee meeting, we've had about 5 cases for essentially 2 months. It's gone up to 8 at one point. It's been below that, but essentially been averaging only 5 cases in a city of 30,000 people. So that is what is giving us, I think, all hope and really allowing the schools to open the way we want to open, with many kids in the school. So, but that's a testament to the way the citizens, the residents, the community has been, the leadership has been really taking care of each other, honestly. So, but that's the most important piece, is to make sure COVID is low. It is low, and because of that, we're working, doing everything we can to make sure our students can be in school with our teachers. And September 16th, just less than a week away, we expect to be there.
All right, we'll get to that in a second. First, I want to ask you, because I'm very curious about this. When you first started applying back whenever, and you match up and think about your career as an educator, and some of the things that have, I don't know, maybe been more of a challenge than another, obviously you couldn't have any idea that this was going to happen. But what was 1 or 2 of the things that maybe you thought would be the biggest challenge in a normal situation going into a school year, whether it be with a union negotiations or with other staff members? What might that have been that you were ruminating about?
Sure. I mean, the typical challenge is, as a superintendent or an aspiring superintendent, the typical challenges you're thinking of are certainly budget. It could be a challenging school committee. It could be a challenging, relationship with your union partners. Those things also can be great and real advantages, okay, but they can be difficult. So budget, some politics, challenges with a union could be one of the expected challenges. You could have, leadership challenges in terms of, who your principals are. That's a common one that would be expected. You could, of course, have real challenges with, teaching and learning in terms of the students aren't doing well enough because don't have a really good instructional approach. So those are the typical ones, and none of those are easy, very honestly, but certainly never in my rightful mind or anyone's rightful mind did we expect this with schools. I mean, wasn't even in the universe of what would be considered, to be done. Yeah. And so, come last March, I was superintendent in Brookline at that point. As is in Gloucester, other places rather, it was doing the unthinkable, the unexpected, it was never on the radar that we'd have to switch in that way, in these ways, and do it so quickly. It just was unexpected on all levels.
Coming into a new situation, as I said a little earlier, you generally have time to absorb things and ask questions and sit back and observe. You haven't had that. Obviously, you've had to get right out on the front lines. Are there people, maybe that's the wrong way to ask it, there must be people that you are able to rely on with a network of administrators that you've been in for so long. So in addition to drawing on the expertise of the local community, do you network with some of your other people and say, how are you guys doing it in this town or in that city?
Yes, we do typically. That's actually one of the great things about being a superintendent is this a network of colleagues. We're the only person in our role in any district across the state. So when we get together, either through there's a North Shore Roundtable group, through the Mass Association of School Superintendents. There's different groups in terms of like the Northeastern Collaborative, and also the different superintendents that are part of Essex Tech and that sort of thing. So we have some sort of defined groups that are already in place. I will say this though is we haven't really been able to take advantage of that as much. I'll give you two examples. One, every summer there's a superintendent's institute on Cape Cod, 3-day institute. And that is a tremendous way to reconnect with colleagues, network with colleagues and friends, learn from each other, that sort of stuff. We couldn't do that this year because of COVID and that sort of thing. So that was a big hit in a sense in terms of just that camaraderie. And then the other one is that have been so busy in our individual districts, putting all these pieces in place. It's also made it difficult. We've reached out and through email, through listservs, some virtually, but not as much as we maybe normally might because we're so just working so incredibly hard with so many details. So that's been a challenge, honestly, to connect with colleagues. I've done a fair job of it. Probably have done more work inside the district and across Gloucester with colleagues, with partners, with other agencies than with other superintendents at this point, honestly.
Yeah, I'm sure you've put about a year's work into them this summer, in what would ordinarily be a safer time. And I'm also pretty sure that everybody's tugging at you. You got school committee pulling at you in one direction. You got parents in another. You got educators or teachers unions in another. You probably have other support staff that want something else from you. And then you got the kids. So where are we right now, Ben, in terms of the latest as we record this on Thursday, was it September 10? Because the ball has just been moved around so many times in so many different places.
Yeah, I mean, what we know from our original surveys of families and staff, and that's really held true. And so that was in July, okay? It's really held true. Then it looked like about 80% of families really wanted some version of in-person. And true enough, at this point, 20% of our families have signed up to do fully remote. They have that option to not have their kids come into class at all, and 20% of them have done that. And that was what we anticipated from earlier in the summer. At that point, when we surveyed staff, surveyed over 300 staff members, and definitely got this. It was clear at that point, many of them wanted in person, or say 2/3 of them wanted in person or remote. Or hybrid. Sorry, so some combination of in person. And I think that's held as well. But everyone's concerned about the health and safety, and they're looking for us to make good choices about that and take care of their kids and take care of the staff. And there's legitimate concerns and obvious fears. What we've been trying to do is, piece by piece, day by day, keep going with the work of addressing those, whether it's making sure our buildings are safe, making sure we have the right protocols in terms of, personal protective equipment, making sure we're making the right decisions about who can be in the building, and flexibility for if staff are sick, can they go on leaves, So I think, by taking it step by step, by trying to communicate as best we can, I think we can do a better job on that. Trying to assure people that we're making good choices that have their health and safety in mind, the learning of their students in mind, but also that we've been doing it, based on the health data from Gloucester. And I hope anyway, by basing it in the health data that's happening in Gloucester, and going at it in a way where step by step we put more and more pieces in place, I hope we're generating confidence and that folks can come into the buildings. And I think we are, because families are geared to have their kids in our buildings on next Wednesday. So, but it's we have to listen to all the concerns and listen to the because we get good information by listening to folks. But generally there's been, a very solid, majority of folks who really see the value of our kids being in a schools with their teachers. And so we've kept going with that.
What's the word of assurance that you would give parents in terms of the flexibility of what's going on right now? Because obviously so many people have put so much into it, but we're not there yet. We haven't started it, and who knows what direction certain things can take. As a parent, I would like to know, okay, what should I do, Superintendent Lummis, when I'm concerned? Should I call the school, talk to my kid's teacher? Should I talk to his principal? Who should I reach out to about my kid?
Yep. So for any parent, they should first reach out to their teacher, their child's teacher. That's the first one. And almost any time, that's the first step. Okay. They can also reach out to the school nurse if it's a health related concern, and then also the school principal. Those are the folks who can get people, the most direct answers the quickest. And so that's almost with all matters, and especially this classroom teacher or your child's teacher, the school nurse, and the principal. Okay. And then I'd also say to folks, please understand that we're doing two things. We're preparing to have our kids in school as best as possible, but we're also preparing for other options if COVID increases in the area. And we are working closely with the Department of Health. I talk to them just about every day, either our nurses do or I do. And we'll continue to look at the health data, and we'll pull back as necessary. Our first and foremost, as it always is, make sure kids are safe, because safe kids can learn well. And it's the same situation here. So please understand that we will adjust if necessary. We are working closely with the Department of Health, and can and will be prepared to pull kids out of school if necessary, so they're safe. I will say, I would ask one more thing from families, and this is, I do ask for their patience. I do ask for their understanding as we put things together here as we lead up to the beginning of school. There are things, I mentioned this last night at school committee, that we typically would have in place. Students' homeroom assignments, students' schedules, information about buses and transportation that we normally would already have to them. This year, because of the late developing decisions and news and changes in requirements and all the sort of expectations we have to deal with, those details are coming a little bit later than expected. And I just ask for folks' patience. It's hard to ask that of parents. They need to know what's happening, but we're a little bit behind on that, but we'll get it. We're getting that to them in the next few days.
I should point out that you've been interviewed by Heather and by Corey on 1623 Studios, and that's a very in-depth interview that I'm going to link to and have people take a look at. And also a lot of information up at the superintendent's website, or the City of Gloucester's public schools website as well.
Yeah. We built a Back Together GPS, Back Together Gloucester Public Schools website, just to get parents and families and the community, information quickly. We're keeping that updated. We're actually going to have quite a few updates in the next couple of days. Health and safety information, protocols, transportation, food, that sort of stuff. So we'll also email the parents and maybe make some phone calls as well. But parents in the community should look to the Back Together GPS website for a lot of updates in the next couple of days.
Okay. Final question. I didn't ask you about this in our pregame warm-up, and we can save it for a later time if it's more appropriate. I'm just wondering, as a former high school teacher, about assessment and evaluation this year. Is that also in flux? Is that something that is on a continuum?
There's a student assessment and grading.
Yes.
Yeah. No, we will have a couple things that are different from the springtime. Is we'll have attendance for all the remote classes, and in-person classes will matter. We'll do it just the way we've always done it, and grading will as well. Grading and assessment will happen just as the same way, on the same standards, on the same approach we have before. We'll adjust to students if necessary, depending on how things go. But whether we are in person or hybrid or remote, grading and report cards will happen as they have in the past. Yeah, that's one of the things we need to do.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to mention?
I think it's going to be a difficult year. It's going to be a challenging year. We will all need to be flexible and be able to adapt. At the same time, I'm really confident that our teachers will do a great job with their students. They do all the time, every year. It'll be different and challenging, but I really have a lot of confidence that our teachers, our school leaders, our staff members, as they always do, will do everything they can to support our students and their families. And I expect it'll be a difficult year, but I hope a great year for all of us.